let's talk about water projects. That sounds like a general thing, and a lot of these projects kind of cross over into other territories. But first of all, we don't want any outside water coming in. Now, the exception to that is I will pay for purified drinking water in 5-gallon plastic reusable things that is purified in town. In fact, I think I tried to do a video tour of the purification plant, but it was too noisy. I would have to make a plan with the guy and say, look, the camera can't handle this shit. We couldn't talk to each other. Some of those clips are probably still useful, but whatever. So I will buy purified water for visitors. That's part of, we'll fund it, you know. It's not that expensive. We do need to take care of the plastic jugs because I have to pay 80 pesos each for those if they get fucked up, which they do all the time because people mistreat them. Okay, so let's get back to, what is this? Long philosophical thing about water. Okay, so we'll do that. Here's the deal. You can look at the graph of rain for wherever you live, and you can figure out a way to capture all the water you need just from rain. And it can be a very simple system, or more complicated. But don't make it more complicated than it has to be. And certainly when we propose solutions for developing places, we should not propose things that are too complex for the place and don't end up getting used and can't be maintained because they use specialized parts and stuff. They need to use ancient methods that we've updated for scientific purposes. You know who else should do that? Everybody else. So all the people who have water on tap and they have lots of water, we don't have enough water, believe it or not, even in places like Oregon and Washington, to waste it. Now, California is learning this right now. I'm on full rain capture here. I'm going to tell you why that's not totally true, and it's badly phrased in one moment. But let's talk about California. Okay, I'm going to not go into what droughts we have. You can look all that up. I'm just going to focus on some of my solutions that I want to get funded here. So this is a project proposal for funding. If you want to be part of a cool experiment that's part of the entire Bosque ecosystem and also feeds positive things into agricultural aspects, wildlife aspects, comfort aspects as far as lifestyle, because it's a very uncomfortable place. And so we could have systems like we used, a little bit of water to keep clean better, easier. That's a whole other thing. First off, you can look at a graph of how much rain you get in a place, and if you had consistent, reasonable amounts of rain all year, you would not need to store water very much. It would be very cheap for you to have water capture, rain capture. You don't need a big cistern. You just can have smaller ones. Now, you still want to be a little bit bigger than you need because you can't trust anything. So you still want too much water. You want to reduce your need for water. That's the number one thing. Composting toilets, saunas. Those are the two big ones, I think. Yeah. I mean, and you can use 20% of the water you're using and actually have a better life. And I talk a lot about that. I have lots of projects related to that. But let's talk about the current state of water in the Bosque. I'll fill you in. If you look at that graph, I get all my rain in about 3 months. A little bit in the other 2 months, but not enough to count. So I knew to in 3 months. Right now it's raining lightly. You can hear it, right? You can see it over here. Now that's rain coming off of a roof, and here's a wet dog. You can calculate, based on the rainfall of any given time, any given month, you can calculate how much you can collect per square foot, as the bird's eye view is, okay, of roof. And every building that's designed, unless there's an exception, should be designed for full rain capture. You hear what I said? That's a pretty radical statement. Not even very polite of me. I shouldn't tell people what to do. Yeah, I'll tell people what to do. In this case, it's like a pretty serious thing that we figure out better ways to do stuff. Water is a big one. You think water is a right? Well, the problem is the water's going to go to whoever's most powerful. That's how shit works. And right now, that's a huge problem. And I'm not going to get into that, but I have philosophies about that and how water is being stolen from people. We're even sort of stealing it from ourselves, because in a place like California where they're draining the aquifers to make the food that then people like and they buy it, the people are part of that decision making, really, although you got to buy food, right? The problem is it's an agricultural system that simply cannot continue to exist. So the problems I'm solving here, the projects that I have here, wait a minute, am I talking about agriculture now? No, I was talking about water, sorry. It's all related. Anyway, back to the water. There's a formula for how much I can totally capture with all the roots I have. And that's great. The problem is, in this case, right here with this water that you just saw, it comes off a roof. And I've already made a decision that that's a garden down there, and we're going to just see different kind of plants. It's shaded from the north, it gets more shade, and it's close in and pretty. So that's an exception. The gutters I have on the lodge are PVC shitty gutters, and they should be good metal ones. Now the truth is the gutters aren't the biggest priority. They're part of it, and that should be funded. The bigger problem is storage. I only get that rain for 3 months. So any other water I want to have during the rest of the year for anything at all has to go into some kind of big tank or cistern. And so I have here ferro cement cistern. I don't tend to like ferro cement cisterns. They tend to break. There's a lot of them around here. They're very popular. But I'm concerned about an earthquake. I'm concerned about the time when, in the dry season, let's say it was the beginning of the dry season. It was November, and there was an earthquake, and all the ferro cement cisterns crack, and they lose their water, and they can't refill. Now they have a spring too over there, but I want to get everything on rain catchment. We got to stop pulling water out of the ground. It's a bad idea. If we can do it with the rain. Anyway, so here we would have to fund big plastic 7,000 liter water containers. Those are the best choice. The only downside is they're not that pretty, but they will spew life out around them. They're faster than rock work, so money can just make them happen. And then we do have to tube them up and hook them to things. And because I only collect water on 3 of my buildings and a weird place. That's terrible. Even my chicken system where I want to collect water for the chickens isn't working. And I don't know why, and I haven't had time to think about it. I just can't deal. Anyway, so if we actually calculated how much rain I'm capturing, it would be a small percentage of the total I could. Because most of it isn't falling on a building with gutters. Most of these buildings don't have any gutters, and they have no way to collect any water at all. They have to be guttered up and guttered up really well. And then every roof, we have to think, where's that water going to go? And I want to maybe dig some of those tanks into the dirt to kind of hide them. I don't like how they look. I mean, I don't care. We can set it up initially, but with them just sitting there, that's fine. We need to be pragmatic and we need to get things done quickly. But we need to do that with a plan for any tubing, any llaves, valves, or any pumps, to have a plan for what we're going to do with this water. The ideal is if we just use it down slope without any extra work. Anyway, that gets all complicated. The point is I don't know what percentage it is, but I bet you that I'm collecting 5% of the water I could. And if I could collect that water and move it to the dry season, I could then potentially water specific plants more, and they would be more productive. And I could have a sauna where people can rinse off afterwards, and the sauna gets them clean. Then they rinse off with the other water, and we use very little water for showers, but we're all really clean in the dry season. Right now, that's not how things work. I have learned to live on very, very little, and I'd like anyone coming here to learn the same. And so water conservation is this huge, huge thing, and the way that I do it is very different than other people. Like the composting toilets use 0 water. They have almost no moving parts. They're far better than the composting toilets you'll see if you Google composting toilet, because people want to sell you things that are complex, overbuilt, and crap. Every solution has its place. A composting toilet on a sailboat might be different, you know, or an airplane. That's trickier. But here we've got space and time, and we should have civilization built in a way that we have space and time, and that we can build things with really simple materials. My composting toilets are the best in the world, except for the various problems that I know that they have. They're easily fixable. You know, I built them all at the same time. I'd never used or seen a composting toilet prior to building mine. I had used 2 books to learn about it. And they produce fertilizer, they're safe, they're not gross, they're less gross in many ways than other things. And I'd love to, as a project, build, this is kind of related to water, it's also a building project, but the reason to do it is to save water and not have pipes running everywhere under streets and stuff. I want to build one that's really pretty. So I need to make a specific whole proposal for the pretty composting toilet project. One that has white tile. It should look like a fancy hotel toilet. I want people to see that. And there's 3 ways we can do it. One way is here, and that's a great idea. I need better toilets. Mine are ugly. Bugs get in them. There's, you know, mice stay in them sometimes. I think they're beautiful because of what kind of great solution they are. But I want to make it so it's fancy, easy to clean, free of insects of all kinds, no insects allowed, white tile, water for washing hands. I don't think we need to provide paper towels for drying your hands. If your hands are clean, wipe them on your clothes. Jesus. Maybe we should. I don't know. Seems like a waste. But that's not good enough. I could build that and share it with the world virtually. I don't have that many people here. And so building one associated with a business in town would be way better. And that's a project proposal. Another one is working, because the way the toilets work here is you pay to use it. And people would pay to use a composting toilet. If the composting toilet was located in a place that needed a toilet, and those are also staffed essentially. The ideal is if it's next to a business where the people in the business have extra time to have you pay your 5 pesos, I think it is now. For example, the hotel has this. You can walk in the hotel, pay them 5 pesos, use their bathroom, and leave. I think you could also offer, this would be interesting actually, if you could find a good yard. It would be interesting to have a place where you just peed. Now you would have it be next to the composting toilet one and try and encourage them, just like I do up here, right? I want pea gardens and composting toilets. The 2 of them are really critical together. So now we're looking for a business that has dirt, a yard, right? And enough space to have a fair number of stalls. That's a problem. You probably want, you know, and these could be unisex. I don't see any reason to divide them by gender except custom. So it just depends. It doubles the infrastructure. That's the problem if you do gender division. And if you're not walking to a little, it depends on your layout too. If everyone feels secure and they're going into a really good stall that's comfy, I mean, it should be nice in there, like, make it a hotel, but it should have enough space to put your bag down, to hang your bag up. I mean, how come a bathroom doesn't have a fucking peg to hang your backpack on? And have it be built so you can hose it out. And have a special water system just for spraying out the composting toilet. You only do it when it's hot out so that, it gets cleaned out. There's drains and stuff. And that way it's easy to keep it clean. Now, I don't expect to get that dirty, and the truth is I'm okay if things are dirty, but not there. The reason I'm pressing this point so much is that people make shitty composting toilets. Back to nature people like me, but they make even worse ones. And so the toilet project, the fancy toilet project we could call it, could have great impact. And I will, in my project proposal, talk about the downsides, where we might want them elsewhere. Should we do it in Pottsboro after we get good at it here? Can we train a team to do it and then have them sell them? And they might go to private residences. I mean, people know that we shouldn't waste water. And if they're going to even out in there, ideally for primary use, I mean, I would suggest people who already have a working toilet not destroy it and then build a composting toilet. Build your composting toilet in an ideal spot as an extra thing, and then ideally you'll reduce your use of your water toilet to the point where you don't hardly use any water. In fact, you use none on the toilet. That's the ideal. Even if you just built a pea garden, which is far easier, a pea garden helps a lot. That gets rid of the number of times you're flushing the toilet. Or it gets rid of having a gross toilet full of pee. You can let it yellow. No, if it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow. That means pee in your toilet and then don't flush. I think that's kind of gross. I don't like it. Sometimes it's smelly, and I don't even feel like seeing anyone else's pee. All right? Even though I talk about shitty topics like composting toilets and pea gardens, I don't have a fetish for it. In fact, I want to get rid of these things. Like, I just want them to go away. But I want them to go away in the right way, with the right amount of energy use, and with the right effect. Because out of the composting toilets, you even get fertilizer. Anyway, so those are a water-saving measure. I'll talk more about that in another video. Let's get back to water. This is actually educational. I hope this is useful to you. So, from above, we have a certain amount of square footage, and we can calculate, based on the prediction of rainfall, how much storage we would need to store all of it. That's the goal. Now, I hardly store any of it now, and I survive because I've reduced my need. But having systems that can last for a long time, how much water are we talking about here? This is a very, very, very valuable resource. We could have a hot tub that was solar heated, not solar panels, but evacuated tube, solar hot water heated all the time. And in the rainy season, we could cycle the water out quite a bit and just waste it because we have so much. Now that sounds pretty decadent. And during the dry season, we'd want to figure out how to use it longer. So the solar hot tub project is another water-related proposal. It uses water. Better sauna. My sauna sucks. Make a Temescal instead. There's a guy in town that can build it. We have the Temescal project to replace the sauna. Why do we care about that? Well, because when you sit in a sauna, you get really hot and your skin starts to peel off eventually, and it just really gets you a little sweaty, and it's good for your health anyway. People like a sauna. And we should have times when it's silent and times when it's social. But this is also a fun thing sometimes. We're chatting in the sauna. It's very fun. Now, the sauna in this case is a modified temazcal. Temazcals are a traditional Mexican sweat lodge. It's a sweat lodge. We can make it out of stone. I visited one that was neat. What I don't like is that you have